Today is your third concert in Poland. How were the previous two?
For the first time that the band has ever played in Europe, Perdition Temple has existed since 2009. So it's 2024 now, so it's 15 years of the band's existence. So the very first two shows now have been in Poland. Unfortunately, we missed the first date in Dresden, Germany because of a flight delay, so that sucks. But historically, with my previous band, Angel Corpse, Polish shows have always been, highlights of any of the tours. I mean, no matter how many people or fans are at the shows, I've always noticed at the Polish shows, everyone in the crowd looks like they could possibly be playing in the next band. And that's always made me feel really welcome at the shows, really a part of it. It almost feels like it's a show playing to family almost, So yeah, it's a great start for the first two shows. I didn't know what to expect the first time now that the band's been in Europe, but the first time bands play any different part of the world that they've never done, you never know what's going to happen, and we're not the fucking Rolling Stones. So, we're not going to be doing arena shows or anything like that. So, I mean, being that it's just small club shows, they've been doing really good. There's about 90 or so people at the first show, about 60 or so at the last show, just small venues, so I'm really happy with it, It's, for the very first time we're here, it's very welcoming. I'm entirely happy with it.
Okay. First, I would like to talk about your other incarnation, acting, because you were playing in horror movies, yeah?
I'm sorry, say again?
You were playing in American Guinea Pig.
The
so
films.
tell me, how did this adventure begin that you are in these movies?
Well, the company that did the movie called Unearthed Films, they've existed since around the early 2000s, and they were originally from the Tampa Bay area. And I've always been a follower of, horror films or extreme horror films, etc. And there was a video store that was run by the president of the Unearthed Films company named Stephen Biro. And that was right at the beginning of when he was starting the company. But he had a video store in Tampa, Florida, where you could go and get all these fucked up, extreme horror movies out of Japan and other parts of the world, stuff that hadn't been on DVD. Because that was at the time when DVD was only starting to pop up in the USA. A lot of Italian movies and German movies and such were starting to come out on DVD. So he had a lot of the Japanese ones that had yet to see release at all in the US. So I was really interested in hanging out. We chatted all the time, and over the years we kept correspondence, and then in about 2014, I saw some postings online on social media that he was going to do his first attempt at making his own film that was called the American Guinea Pig series, because there was, of course, the Japanese Guinea Pig series, which had a lot of really great titles and some that weren't so great, but it's a notorious series historically. And I was excited to see that he finally came around to be able to do something like that. Now, I didn't have anything directly involved with the film on the first one, the one that was called Bouquet of Guts and Gore, but we did provide a music video that came from one of the songs off of the Tempter's Victorious album called Chambers of Predation, which was like a real kind of like bind, torture, kind of Marquis de Sade type influenced lyrics. So I'm like, hey, this might kind of fit with the theme of the whole, body horror, torture thing that was going on in Bouquet of Guts and Gore. So we did a video, and the video was shot with the same video camera that was used to make the film. So it almost made it seem like the video was being done by the same filmmakers, which technically it was, that made the film. So we kind of did that. So that's why the videos kind of got like a really cheap VHS kind of, because it was actually recorded on a VHS recorder. So that was interesting to do, as a first time out trying to make a video, and which of course now the video's long been banned from YouTube because of all the violence and the gore in it, but anybody that might have seen it got a taste of what it was all about.
By the way, about the horror movies and metalheads, what do you think about the videos which Necrophagia did?
Necrophagia?
Yeah, they have these 4 videos, I think, with Finanzelma.
Yeah, those were cool, and I don't know if you're familiar with Mordrum, the Fred Vogel movie. Well, Killjoy was in part of that, and originally Mordrum, the second chapter of the August Underground series, for anyone that's familiar with that, originally that idea started out as a project to do a music video for Necrophagia with Killjoy. But they ended up filming and doing all this extra shit, and then they just decided to make the second. I mean, I could be wrong on all the specifics, but at some point it just became a project to make a new August Underground movie, which became Mordrum, and then it had a large section of it that had Killjoy in it with all the effects and such, you know. So I'm not sure whether or not the music video with Fred Vogel ever materialized, but that's part of how Mordrum came together, from my understanding. You know, and you know.
I think they used some pictures from this on their Ravenous second album cover art.
Possibly, yes. Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty notorious films, but you know, again, some of my favorites.
And about your acting, do you think you can continue this way of life? I mean, maybe do you have any offers?
There haven't been any kind of offers, but you know, I haven't really been, you know, seriously pursuing it in any way. You know, were there something to come along, you know, I might consider it. You know, I mean, I tried my best, especially, I had a little part in the second guinea pig, American guinea pig called Blood Shock. I had a little part in that, but I had more of an involved part on the third one that was called Song of Solomon.
Mm-hmm. As
where
a priest,
there was a lot of things that I had to rehearse lines and such, and try to memorize some Latin lines and other things to do. So there was a lot more seriousness on that one, you know, and I tried to do my best. I tried to, you know, deliver as best as possible and not be too campy, you know, or goofy or like B movie level, you know, for better or worse. But if something really interested me, and if it was a script or subject matter that, you know, interested me enough, you know, and wasn't just some stupid cash grab kind of thing, I'd probably consider it again.
Can you imagine yourself playing in comedy or sitcom? I don't mean about the money, but about the comedy role.
No, most people don't think I'm very funny anyways.
All right. We have a lot of horror classic movies from the past, but now the genre is still developing. The new ideas, new effects, etc. Do you have any favorite ones from the last years?
There's an Austrian movie that came out, because I like a lot of the classic 70s, like they're called folk horror movies, like Wicker Man or things like that, Eyes of Fire. There's one that came out recently that was an Austrian movie called The Devil's Bath, which I thought was really good. It's based on actual like some history out of either Germany or Austria at the time, where, you know, I guess spoiler alert. There was a time when the people that were really depressed or whatnot, but they were afraid of committing suicide, so they would commit a heinous crime so that they would get condemned to death, so that they didn't have to kill themselves. So that way they would, like a priest would give them absolution before they got executed. So they would still achieve getting killed and dying because they were depressed or crazy or whatever it was, but they wouldn't have to kill themselves. So in a way they thought they were cheating heaven, and at the same time maybe cheating the devil as well. You know, so it's a really compelling story, and it's really slow, and it goes along. You have to watch it all the way through to the end to really understand what it's doing. And yeah, it comes off really well, and it really works alongside of like the classic folk horror films.
By the way,
that's a favorite.
Do you watch or watched snuff movies? The real I don't know, gore. Snuff.
Oh, you mean like the old ones, like Faces of Death?
Yeah, but the real.
I'd seen all of those, and a lot of those sometimes were fake. They were either made up, or, you know, they sometimes scenes that they would have in those gave the impression that somebody was killed. and then you'd see the same video somewhere else, and it was just somebody that got some smoke in their face or something that happened, you know. So those things got tiring really quick. And I think it was that Traces of Death series back in the 90s or whenever that hell, and it had this like really cheap death metal music that would be playing along with it. I don't know. I never really cared about those. I mean, what I like, you know, I like craft in the films.
Okay.
I don't care about what, you know, it's easy, you know, to see somebody that's been ripped apart in an accident. You can see that on the side of the road, and I have. You know, it's easy to find that. You know, but to see somebody that can craft that out of like fake materials and make it look like what you might see in real life, you know, that's some skill. That's what I want to see put on film. I don't want to just see somebody with a camera catching car accidents or murder scenes. Anyone can do that. There's no art in that.
True.
You know, so yeah, if somebody does the work, I'd prefer that over anything that's just, you know, somebody on the side of the road filming something or whatever. Yeah.
I remember when the movie Aftermath was released. Have you seen it?
Yeah, Nacho Cerda.
It's about the coroner who take out the body of the woman.
Yeah, it's about 30 minutes long. It's great.
Yeah, and I know that there were the authors of the movie got a visit from police because they got the phones that it is real, and then they released the extras showing the effects, and this is that craft what you are talking about. I think,
Yeah, because they believed that the effects were so well done by Nacho Cerda and his team that they believed it was real. And he did another great follow-up after that called Genesis, which really wasn't any kind of gore in it, but it had a really kind of compelling, poetic, kind of dark story to it too that was really good. I mean, all those movies are, you know, speaking of unearthed films, like all of those have been released over time, and The Abandoned just got re-released from Nacho Cerda on Unearthed Films. So I guess I'm giving them a plug.
Okay, now we can go to the music questions. If I am right, your first band was Impiety.
Yeah, that would have been around the time that I was about 19 years old. That was evolved out of my hometown up in Minnesota in northern part of the United States, with myself and another guitarist named Mark Tieber, and originally a drum machine because we didn't have a drummer, and we did some rough demos like that. And then we gave tapes away to people at shows in the local area. And I believe we gave a tape to maybe the drummer of Morbid Angel and the bass player, which would have been Pete and David. And one of them had given the tape to the drummer Antar Lee Coates in Tampa, Florida, and then he contacted me. He somehow found my phone number and contacted me from Tampa, Florida to Minnesota, and we started tape trading. He'd send me drum tracks, and we started saying, hey, you know, it'd be cool if we could try to do it. So I basically sold everything that I had of my, you know, minimal personal belongings, like, you know, coming out of my teenage years, video games and some CDs and shit, and put enough money together to move down to Tampa, Florida at the time in 91, about mid-91. And we started what developed into what was to be the like more of the real Impiety demo called Despondent Ecstasies that we did by 1992, which had 4 songs that we put together. And that was the beginning of it all, you know. And there was a lot of early things that were learned from that. That demo was done on a 4-track cassette. Yeah, so I mean that's where I started as far as like actually, you know, having something on tape, you know, to start into the whole underground tape trading thing and whatnot, and developing anything at all, getting in touch with other bands, tape trading with other bands, you know, like all the other bands did at that time too. So that's where I started with that.
So it was your gateway to the underground.
Yes.
So then you break up and you didn't play for 2 years, and then Angel Corpse began to exist. Yes.
Right.
And who whose idea was to create the Angel Corpse?
Well, what happened is, as I said, when we did the Impiety demo, we were going to shows and trading, just giving tapes to bands that were playing, on tour or whatever. Just anything to get the tape out to people to see if we could find other musicians that might want to do this stuff. One of those was we went to the 1991 Milwaukee Metal Fest. Yeah, the one in 1991. And there was one of the bands that played, which was Order from Chaos, out of Kansas City, Missouri. And what struck me about their band was all day long, keep in mind this is 1991, so every fucking band coming out was all blast beats, and all the vocals are etc. And then you had this one fucking band comes out, and it's like old Creator, old Bathory type of really raspy upper range kind of vocals, and I was like, well, wow, that's fresh compared to everything else that's going on. I mean, albeit there was a lot of great stuff that came out from the early wave of like death metal in like around between about 89 and 91. But I mean, here's something that's like not even bothering to go there, so I'm like, okay, let's give them a tape and, just correspond with them. So that was in 91. Then it was about 1994, and I was living in Minneapolis, Minnesota at that time, which wasn't my hometown, but I was trying to put together a lineup to start a band of some sort up there. I already had some of the songs that were later to become Angel Corpse songs that I was working with some drummers, and it was all going nowhere. And then there was like some festival that was put on by the promoter up in Minneapolis, Don Decker. Anybody that knows that region of the country will know who that is. And he put on a show, one of his little Metal Massacre festivals or whatever the fuck he called them. And the guy, Bill Taylor, who ended up in Angel Corpse, he was playing there with his band at the time from Omaha, Nebraska, called Xenomorph. They come out and they got the armor and all the specs. They look like a bunch of like black metal samurais. It was nuts. And that was really cool. But what was interesting and what was key to this is that Bill was walking around the show after they played, handing out just random flyers. Like, how you used to get flyers in the mail from people trading and shit? Well, he's walking around handing out flyers, and I hadn't corresponded with Pete since around 91 or 92, and it'd been a few years. And Bill gave me a flyer that was advertising a new 10-inch record that Order from Chaos had put out called Plateau of Invincibility on Shiver Dashana Records from Holland, long gone. And I'm like, wow, I hadn't talked to Pete in a while, and this is a good chance for me to correspond with him again and buy the 10-inch. So I sent the $10 or whatever it was. Now, when he sent me the 10-inch, he included a letter saying that, oh yeah, we recorded this. We also recorded like a mini album, and then also what's going to be our final full-length album, which all came out subsequently after that. But we're breaking up now that we've done it. And at that point, I was ready to give up my time in Minneapolis because I wasn't finding anyone that was gelling with me and working properly, and it just wasn't. I wasn't happy with what was happening. So I'm like, well, hey, fuck it. I got a bunch of material. I'll send you some tapes of what I'm doing. Let me know what you think. And if you like it, I'll move to Kansas City and we can develop it into something, in a possible band. So if it was anyone's idea, it was mine. And I was like, hey, if your band is broken up and you're not doing nothing, I love the vocals that you did on Stillbirth Machine, and the new 10-inch. And I think with what I'm doing and your vocals put together, we might be able to do something really cool. So he agreed to it. I sent him some tapes. He liked them. So then I, once again, sold a lot of the shit that I owned, packed my car, and moved to Kansas City. And we spent about a year working on things and developing stuff. What eventually became our, in 95 or 96, the Goats to Azazel demo. And then we just built it from there.
I think they are starting. They start playing now.
I don't think so. I think they started about maybe 8:30 or something. I don't even know what time it is.
18:30.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not starting yet. It's only the two bands, so it'll probably be like 8:30 or 9 o'clock that they start.
Okay, so the symbol associated with Angel Corpse was a wolf. What this symbol means to you, the wolf?
Well, it just like the wild spirit, that kind of, at least for me, it would mean like more of like anything could happen, anything at any time could be, some wild outburst. And, I tried to communicate that into the music too. Pete might have had his own versions of what it was, but to me, that was a good representation for me. It's just that the unpredictable wildness that could be conveyed through the music and the lyrics and the combination of all of it together.
Okay. Are you currently playing live any Angel Corpse songs with any of your bands?
No.
No.
No,
Have you considered it?
every band that I do, I want to keep entirely separate from the others.
Okay. You have recorded a few cover songs as Angel Corpse. What was your key to choose the songs which you will record?
Usually it was a mutual choice of what we thought was really good. Usually it would be like something, if I knew how to play it, I would propose it and be like, hey, we could maybe do this one. Like we did early on, we did like Pleasure to Kill, and we got invited to do that Iron Maiden tribute. And we chose Genghis Khan from Iron Maiden because I thought it would be stupid for our band with, the more black death metal vocals to try to do an Iron Maiden song with the more, like Deano or Bruce Dickinson type of vocals. It would be, to me, it would be insulting to do one of those songs and have some or any of that trying to do that. Like the more traditional melodic rock or heavy metal like that, it just doesn't work right for me. So we did an instrumental.
Yeah.
And I really liked that one. That was a good time.
I ask because you are still recording any new cover arts, cover songs like.
Well, we did
the Morbid Angel, yeah.
Right. We did the on that latest Perdition Temple. We did a Merciless Upheaval album. We did the 4 new songs, and then the B side of the record is 4 cover songs. So really, it's more of like an expanded EP. It's like a full length in length. But as far as musically goes, it's like an expanded EP. You get the EP of the 4 new songs on one side, and then on the B side, you get the 4 cover songs. So it's almost like if over the years we did 4 more 7-inches, because with 7 inches, I always like to have an original and cover like old classic EPs typically were. So that's what you really get there. And all of those bands obviously are bands that to me, meant quite a bit. Infernal Majesty, None Shall Defy. Is there anybody on earth that can say that that's not a classic? No. Or the first album from Pestilence? No, it's another classic. And then and Morbid Angel was an easy guess. And then Shub Nugaroth has always been a great favorite as well. So being able to do a cover of that. And even for some of those covers, whenever there was any little part of one of the songs that I wasn't 100% on, not that I'm an entire perfectionist, but anything that I had any doubts about, I messaged people from the bands. And I said, hey, how does that little tiny little part go? So that I can make sure that at least before I put my own take on it, that at least at the heart of it, I knew what was originally intended. Because sometimes with the recordings, you might not be able to tell, and I don't have the most perfect ear for this shit. So yeah, in some cases, I collaborated with some of the people from those bands to make sure that those covers were at the heart of them were as accurate as possible, and then I built from there to, put my own sound on it.
Do you have any other songs on your mind to record?
Yeah, I think sometime in the near future, Perdition Temple will probably do like a Bathory cover.
Oh.
I'm not going to say which one at the time, but when they hear it, people will understand which one it was.
About Angel Corpse, you split up a few times. Why?
The original time in 1990, or excuse me, in about 2000, it was, things were going really well for the band. At that time, a lot of people, this isn't me bragging, but, a lot of the press and such and reviewers at that time and, just industry people in general kind of looked at bands around like between about 98 and 2000, like Hate Eternal, Crisian, Nile, and Angel Corpse as kind of like the newer, more violent next level of death metal. And I think so too. It's and we were right there, and I was more than happy to continue. I was eager for it. But basically at that point, I don't know, Pete started to have different feelings about it, feelings that didn't work with mine. And then there were some events that happened on a tour that we did towards the end, which I think just exacerbated that. There was an instance where his fiancée at the time, or girlfriend at the time, there was some, like, almost a kidnapping that she got out of. She was able to defend herself, but got injured in the process. There was that, and there was also like a really bad van wreck that we had that we were lucky to survive.
It was the time with the Crusion.
Yeah, it was with some shows with us, Crisian, Satyricon, and Immortal. So we ended up missing a show because we were basically licking our wounds the next day and waiting to get a new van rental because the original van had been totaled from a head-on collision with an embankment. But I think all of that, plus some of his disheartedness with what he felt about the scene, made him and I disagree. And then he chose to leave the band at that time. So in 2000, that's why the band ended at that time.
Okay. But a few years ago, you came back again and play a few shows on festivals and even in Poland, in Krakow. But tell me, in this time, you've got Ronnie in the lineup, and then you changed him in on, how was his name? Andrea Janko.
Yeah, Andrea Janko.
Why Ronnie left the band?
There were, I'm not going to go much into it, but there was some tensions that were happening amongst all of us, and Ronnie exited, and we brought in Andrea to do some of those shows, and then and then it continued from there until it finished up. But at that time when we did those live shows, there was never any intention of doing a new recording or any new music. It was just, a lot of it had to do with that there was represses of CDs and vinyl of the back catalog of Angel Corpse. So we kind of wanted to do that as a way to promote those reissues and all that came out. So we figured the best way to do that was to put together a live reunion to go out and do shows to promote that. But artistically, at that point, even when we were doing that, both Pete and I knew that we were never going to really be able to communicate artistically again to make what would be proper new Angel Corpse music. And anyone that's listened to anything that I've done post Angel Corpse or anything that Pete has done post Angel Corpse can clearly hear the differences and the disparity between both of our projects, to where that if you tried to put the two of us together, it really probably would never work at all. So it's best that we went our separate ways and we keep it that way.
So no plans for new music then, but why John was not with you? John, the drummer.
I mean, we got, when we did the reunion live shows, it was basically all of us Perdition Temple members were just bringing Pete into it, and we were playing those songs. So it was easiest to do that way. So for rehearsal purposes, since me and Ronnie live in the same city, it made sense to have Ronnie do it. I mean, Ronnie was more than capable of doing all the songs. So, we never really considered reaching out at the time. It was just geographical economics, to keep it that way. Plus, John's really busy with his projects like Origin and such, so there probably would have been conflicts anyways, but it was what it was.
By the way, I saw you with Ronnie at the Brutal Assault, and then in Krakow with Andrea. And I must be honest that I didn't like the play of Andrea on drums when he was playing with you. What is your opinion about his feeling your music?
Andrea was a really great player, and during the time where Ronnie had exited those live reunion gigs, Andrea came in at somewhat short notice, so maybe he didn't have a lot of time to really get the feel of a lot of things, but he's a really great drummer. Don't get me wrong. He's a very great drummer. And, you know, and if he had time, maybe a little more time to work out the songs, a lot of the things that maybe didn't sound entirely right, I'm sure he would have nailed with a little bit more time. Because anything I've heard that he's done before, like with Imposter from Italy or other bands, Cenotaph that he played with in Italy, you know, he's got his own long history of recordings that he's done too. That it would have came together better, but you know, it was a limited time thing. It was just reunion shows, and in 2017 is when it ended, and that's the final end of the whole thing altogether.
So no chances to that Angel Corpse will be back?
Absolutely not.
No, it's just the history now.
No. Me and Pete won't work together again.
Okay.
I don't care to go on about it, but him and I won't work together.
Are you touching
again.
with him or?
No.
Totally.
No.
So okay. So you part your ways.
Yeah, we parted ways. Yes, we have.
By the way, your last album, The Lucifer of Light and Lighting, don't have such great sound like the previous your albums. Do you consider to re-release it with the new mastering?
Not necessarily.
No?
I think what happened with that album is there was a larger gap of time, and some of my ideas had started to change, I guess, into what was becoming the Perdition Temple sound, for that matter. You know, a lot of, because everything was like on the more down-tuned guitars with the 7 strings and such. And I think a lot of people were expecting The Inexorable Part 2, or Exterminate Part 2. Like how a lot of people, when South of Heaven came out from Slayer, they were expecting Rain and Blood Part 2. And when suddenly Tom Araya was singing clean vocals and all of that, there was like negative reactions to that too, because they'd done something new, something different. You know, and being that we didn't just repeat what we did from the Inexorable album, I think a lot of people reacted. I mean, as far as production goes and recording, there's pros and cons to every one of the albums that we did, from Hammer of Gods up through Lucifer and Lightning, and even every other fucking album that I've ever done. I can go back and look at it, and I can see all the mistakes. I can see all the little things that could have been done better. You know, so we did the best that we could at the time with what we had to do it. You know, so it's, for each one of the Angel Corpse albums, I have favorite songs that are just as favorite to me as any of my favorite songs from the other albums. You know, so those kind of things don't bother me at all.
Do you have the songs which you don't like when you listen to Angel Corpse albums now?
Sometimes, and usually it's only because of like a little technical thing, like somebody might listen to the record, they're not going to hear it, but since I've made it, I hear all the little things that I know that there's a little mistake here or there, and that I'm like, maybe I should have done that better. You know, what songs, it doesn't matter. You know, like I said, it's on every album. You know, you do the best that you can with what you've got. You know, and it should be a timestamp. You know, you shouldn't go back and keep fucking with it over and over again until you get what you perceive as being perfect, because that just leads to making a sterile recording. I don't want to make sterile recordings. You know, I want to have a bit of that animal character to the music, the vocals, the lyrics, you know, so it doesn't need to be figured out and made into some mathematical thing. Fuck that. That's not death metal. That's not black metal. You know, that has nothing to do with me. You know, so that's where I leave it.
Okay, your other 2 bands where you were playing, but they are, I think, dead now, are Apocalypse Command and Blasphemic Cruelty. Will you go back with these bands one day, or they are just the past now?
They're past now. Apocalypse Command originally was intended as some sort of a solo project. Originally, Apocalypse Command was going to be the only project I was going to do where I was doing vocals. But then when the end of Angel Corpse and the beginning of Perdition Temple happened, and I ended up doing the vocals for Perdition Temple, it kind of took the fire away from the whole purpose of Apocalypse Command, and it just kind of went away from me from there. And Blasphemic Cruelty, you know, I love the material that I did with it, but, you know, with the other projects that I was trying to do at the time and trying to like build more of a live thing for things like Perdition Temple, and then those Angel Corpse reunion shows came up, it just kept getting pushed further and further in the back, that I just let it go, and I've just let it go from there, you know. And I wasn't really working on any new material for it anyways, so it just got both the Apocalypse Command and the Blasphemic Cruelty really got away from me. They both did.
And how do you feel as a vocalist in Exorcist? Because
Exorcist.
you are only on vocals, yes?
Yeah, I only do vocals.
So have you been playing any shows?
No, I don't know if Exorcist is really going to be much of a live band, because some of the members have, one of them's a truck driver, so they're gone for 3 months at a time, and then they're home for a little while. Maybe in the future it might have. I mean, we still have yet to finish the new album. There'll be more news about that in the near future, but we have yet to finish that new album and get it out, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Who will it release? God of War production? I mean the label.
It hasn't been announced yet.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to keep that a secret for now.
All right. Another band did you enjoy is Demonized. How did it happen that you play with them?
That some people might know that after Angel Corpse ended the first time back in around 2000, right around that time I attempted to do a label, like my own label called Evil Vengeance Records. And I'd put out a few releases: Abhorrence, evoking the Abomination, another Brazilian band called Ophiolatry, Anti-Evangelistic Process. Album, I still love those albums, you know, and it's too bad that my label didn't survive. Then there was a Texas band called Reign of Terror with Threnody of the Impaled, it was called. And then my next project that I was going to do was going to be the Demonized full length, because I'd heard the Domain Demonized split album that had come out around that time. And I really loved Domain, but that project had already been signed to Osmos, and Domain became Ravager, for anybody that knows what I'm talking about. But Demonized didn't, you know, and I love that stuff too. And so I got in touch with Antimo, and I'm like, hey, do you have a deal for the Demonized band? You know, because I love the couple of tracks that are on the split. He was like, no, okay, you know, so I offered them some money to be able to record the album, and they did it. But the label wasn't really taking off, and I'd already spent a lot of money, and I was losing a lot of money on it. And it got to the point that if I would have paid to finish the pressing and promote the Demonized album, I would have been bankrupt and living on the street. So I was able to get them to finish the recording with that budget, so I sold the rights to the album to Osmos. You know, so I made my money back for what I paid the band to be able to produce the album. So it ended up coming out on Osmos. So that was my original history with Demonized, that I was just like the guy that was going to be the label. But a few years ago, Antimo, I mean, we've been in touch over the years, you know, always keeping up on his other bands that he's been in. And he approached me with the idea that, hey, I'm going to resurrect Demonized, and would you want to get involved? It took about 2 heartbeats for me to be like, of course I want to be involved, because I loved that first Demonized in the demo, but this time I'd be involved as an actual player in it. You know, and he'd written, I mean, the EP, the mini album that's come out so far was just the 4 songs, all written, musically all written by him, and the lyrics all by him. So I played, you know, my rhythm guitars on it, so we're both playing on it, and, you know, and then I do my guitar solos. What was really exciting about doing the Demonized album is, like, unlike Angel Corpse or others, it was a chance for me and another guy to both share lead guitar solos, to kind of have that Iron Maiden, Judas Priest
Classic.
Trading guitar solos kind of thing, which I've never really had that in, you know, the other bands. Like, even though on albums I might have it recorded that way, where I trade off with myself, but to actually do that with another guitar player and mix it up a bit, you know, it's kind of like a throwback to, like, the classic heavy metal that I've always been into, you know. So it was really exciting to be a part of that too.
And you don't have enough because you have another band, Malefic Throne. How did it happen that you got John and Steve in the lineup?
Well, that goes back to around the time after the everybody got shut down from the COVID outbreak.
Yeah.
And that whole pandemic paranoia, and everybody was trapped at home. So nobody was touring, nobody was going anywhere. You know, and everybody starts chatting online about stuff, like, because we've got nothing else to do. We're never going to go out and do any shows. Everything was shut down, clubs, restaurants. I mean, people were losing their businesses from this. So me and John were in touch, and then I think one time online, a couple of us, you know, made some cracks about some subject about, you know, you know, whatever, like maybe we should do a band. And about a week after we did that, I'm like, well, hey, you know, what would happen if we really did that? You know, I know that you and I, John, that the two of us, we could do something together well. I mean, we knew what we were doing. We've been in this long enough. And I'm like, well, you know, why don't we see if Steve would want to do it too? And they're not doing anything right now with Morbid Angel, so let's try it. You know, we got time. So I put together some songs. Steve got the lyrics on it. And that's how that demo came out. Well, technically the demo came out on Hell's Headbangers as a release, but that really was essentially our demo, you know, the very first material that we did. So that's how that came together, just because of the fact that everybody was looking for new work to do, while everybody's hands were tied and not able to go anywhere. You know, and with the full length that we have coming out next, you know, I think it's really gonna, you know, show the strength of what the three of us together can really do with a little bit of time behind it, you know. So I think that's going to be really strong for us when it comes out early part of this next year. We'll be finishing the mixing on that probably around the end of this year.
It's possible that you will go to Europe on concerts.
We'd hope so, yeah.
Because I'm asking about it because I know that Morbid Angel plays only in USA.
Currently, anyways, yeah.
And is it true that they cannot go to the Europe?
That I don't know.
You don't know because they.
I don't know the logistics of that, but I do notice that they haven't played Europe for quite some time.
Yeah, because I read some information that they have problems with passports. Or
I don't
something.
know.
Oh, okay.
I don't press Steve for these things. That's private business of their band,
Right.
and I leave it alone.
By the way, which of your band you can consider as a continuation of Angel Corpse?
Well, probably the most direct continuation would be the Perdition Temple band. I mean, like the very first Perdition Temple album was mainly made up of material that was otherwise intended at the time of what would have been the follow-up to the Of Lucifer and Lightning album from Angel Corpse. But then the fallout with me and Pete at that time, that ended the band again, you know, that killed that. And I was ready to record, and the drummer we had at the time, Terry Eleftherio, in Greece, he was ready to record. He had all the material practice and ready to go. So about 5 minutes after I announced to Hervé from Osmos that Angel Corpse was finished, I sent him another email right after that, and I said, you know, we're ready to go. We're ready to record these songs. Give me a little time to work on lyrics, and I've got a new band name, Perdition Temple. We'll work it out, we'll put it out. He agreed and sent me the contract for that, and then we just continued from there. So it was done and done.
So the first music from Perdition Temple was for Angel Corpse written.
It would have been had the band not ended, at least musically. That part of it, because I'd written all the music, yes.
And about Perdition Temple, when we can expect the new album?
Right after I finish when I get home from this, and Steve gets home from the upcoming Morbid Angel tour in the US, he is going to finish his bass and vocal parts, and then once he's done with that, all I have left to do is record my guitar solos, and then we can send it off to mix. So that should be out early part of next year. And right after I finish my guitar solos from Malefic Throne, I can move on to finishing my guitar parts and vocals for the new Perdition Temple album. So the two albums should probably come out next year, not too far apart from each other.
Oh.
You know,
who will be releasing them?
Hell's Headbangers again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Both bands?
No. The Malefic Throne will be out on Agonia Records from Poland.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And if you are talking about bands, when you start writing a music, do you know in your head for which band it fits, or you have some kind of boundaries that this kind of riff doesn't fit to this one, but better to this one? How this process looks? when you write the music?
For Perdition Temple, I kind of like let anything go, any kind of influences I want. That's kind of what's made the sound. That's kind of what evolved from the Angel Corpse sound into the Perdition Temple sound, is that I let any manner of influence, you know, somehow work its way into the sound. With Malefic Throne, I try to maintain my sound that people would identify as me, but then I also try to like write parts that might be representative of where some of the other members might be coming from, like such as maybe sometimes I might have a little bit of more exaggerated technicality, which might be a little more leaning towards like some of the things John's been part of, like Origin and such, and maybe some more of the slurring, slower, crawling type horror kind of stuff that you might have from Morbid Angel might weave its way in there too. You know, so I try to make it something that people that follow any one of us as members in our other projects, you know, might find a bit of all of that within the Malefic Throne project, which in turn I, as best as I can attempt musically and artistically, you know, I hope that makes a relative uniqueness to the Malefic Throne sound as well.
By the way, you are the only guy in the band who write the music, or other musicians?
Currently, I wrote all the music, yeah.
Because I know that Ronnie is playing guitar as well. Ronnie.
Ronnie is a great guitar player too, but as far as Perdition Temple, he hadn't written any of the music in it, no.
I think that your cooperation looks really great because you play together so many years.
For his drumming, yeah. I don't dictate what he does. I mean, I send him the patterns and the riffs of the songs and like a tempo, you know, click track or whatever for him to be able to orchestrate the arrangements of the songs that I put together. But I don't tell him like, oh, you need to do this kind of beat here, you need to do whatever, double. I just let him entirely come up with whatever he feels is the right kind of patterns to do on the drums. So as far as writing the patterns for the rhythm and the drums is entirely his, mixed with what I come up with, which I think contributes also to any manner of uniqueness that Perdition Temple has as a sound too.
How do you like his playing in other bands, like in Malevolent Creation or his own Blood Messiah? How do you like his playing?
Constant innovation. I mean, Ronnie is the sort of drummer that, you know, when he picks up the stuff from other bands like Malevolent Creation or others, I mean, you give him a tape and within a day or two he's got 5 or 6 or more of the songs already learned. You know, and with this stuff, once we have the songs, we sometimes we won't rehearse for months at a time. And then we'll get together 2 days before we go out for something like this, and it's like we've been, you know, rehearsing every day. You know, so it works really well. It's very professional on how he, you know, keeps on top of everything. And yeah, with every project, it seems like he was born for it. You know, so that's why I've been more than happy to have him as part of this, the Perdition Temple band, since 2011 now. You know, so it's been many years now, you know, and I don't see any reason for that ever changing.
Okay, that's all of what I want to ask you. Do you have any last words?
Thanks for the support with the interview, and you know, especially being here in Poland, one of my favorite places to play. I've always loved the attendees and the fans. Like I said at the beginning, everybody that comes out to the show seems like they're going to be the next band to play after we do. So that's always most welcome, and I can't wait till sooner the better that I can get back again.
Thanks.
All right.